Attention, please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric in the southern slopes of India. And our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas off Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
Right now, it's more vital than ever that we keep in touch. So at Labara, we're offering a great value SIM-only deal. 1,000 texts and 1,000 minutes to the UK. 100 extra minutes to 40 other countries, plus 2 gigs of data. All for just £5. No contract. You can change at any time. Not that you'd want to. Labara. Stay connected.
Tier Vinzo. Battleborn.
Whatever your day holds, you need a breakfast that helps you get up and go. Up.
And go, go, go.
Up. And go. A delicious breakfast shake made with oats and milk. High in fibre, high in protein, high in calcium. Start right with Up and Go. The official breakfast partner of British Swimming. Find us in the cereal aisle.
And welcome to the London Olympic Aquatic Centre. This day 5, the final day of the British swimming selection trials for the Olympics in Tokyo in less than 100 days' time. Well, we've had 4 days of wonderful swimming. Absolutely stunning stuff. By my reckoning, we've got 24 swimmers that have either been pre-selected or achieved the consideration time. That's after day 4, and I'm sure there'll be a couple more added today. And I have to say, I've been utterly delighted to be joined in the commentary box by Great Britain's double Olympic silver medalist from Rio back in 2016. Jazz Carling. And I'm very, very pleased she's joining me this morning because look at that, working backwards, the men's 15 nanometers freestyle. The slowest heat will be this morning, and then the fastest heat of the women's and the fastest heat of the men's will be in the final session this evening. But working backwards, Jazz, I think possibly the race of the meet is going to go off at 10:46 this morning.
It's always one to watch, the men's 200 metres freestyle. It's probably been one of the strongest events for men over the past 10 years or so. It's been a very strong event, and obviously the relay, we've seen them win medals at World Championships, Olympic Games, various international competitions. But yeah, that is going to be one to watch this morning, because they will all be gunning for one of the lanes this evening.
Well, it's going to be a stunner. There's Craig Hunter in the centre. Fantastic servant of this sport. Brilliant administrator. And then the referees for men's and the women's events flanking him. Jazz, I just need to pick you up on something you said yesterday. You're not particularly good at 200 metres freestyle. I was doing a little bit of homework last night looking at the Welsh records. There's one Jay Carling, 200 freestyle Welsh record holder.
Yeah, I managed to go 156.8, which is okay, but, you know, not as competitive on the world stage, I'd say.
156.8. Wow. I wish I was not very good at something that could go 156.8. That was great. What are you looking forward to today most, though? 200 free, or, I mean, these women breaststrokers have been utterly brilliant so far, haven't they?
Yeah, I think obviously the men's 200 freestyle is always one to watch. You know, the women's 100 breaststroke, I think it's going to be great to see. We saw Abby Wood and Molly Renshaw swim really well in that 200 metres breaststroke. But obviously 100 is more of a sprint event. It's a bit shorter, half the distance. So it'd be great to see them test themselves with the speed this morning.
Talking of speed, we've got the women's 50 metres freestyle coming up as well. Anna Hopkin put herself well in contention for a spot on that team, coming second in the 100 metres freestyle to Freya Anderson. Freya, of course, won the 100 and the 200, so barring any bizarre miracles, she'll be on the team. But Anna Hopkins swam really well on the 50 to put herself right in contention for consideration. All the swimmers so far, 4 pre-selected, and then another 20 have done the consideration time here and will be discussed tomorrow at the selection meeting, the first selection meeting. First race up, though, is that women's 100 metres breaststroke. And the British record holder, Siobhan Marie O'Connor. Well, we've spoken about her already, but I have to say my hat off to her for making a very tough decision not to come here. She wasn't quite fit enough. She's been so ill, and wish her really well. Yeah,
it's been a shame to watch her, but it was great to obviously see the women's 200 IM last night and see Abby Wood and Alicia Wilson both get under that consideration time. They had a cracking swim and really drove each other on to achieve that time. But yes, it's a shame not to see Siobhan here, and I think sometimes we forget what a vast majority of events Siobhan used to compete in, and showing that with the British record in the 100 metres breaststroke. It'll be looking forward to seeing a strong 100 breaststroke this morning, but I think there'll be a fast final tonight.
Well, there will, and I wouldn't be too surprised if at least 3 of these swimmers, maybe even 4, make it through to that final. This is a really quick first heat. Heat 1 of 3 of the women's 100 breaststroke. And in lane number 6, Abby Wood's 200 breaststroke came second behind Molly Renshaw. Molly's time, second fastest in the world. Abby's the 4th fastest in the world this year on the 200 breast. Then she won the 200 medley in the 2nd fastest time in the world this year. Not a bad meet. Wow.
Abby's entry time here is 1:10.62, but in the 200 she was out in 1:08.79. So I think we'll be looking to dip under that entry time by quite a bit this morning.
Just doing a couple of tuck jumps. She loves to really get at it, doesn't she? She really likes to race. Learned that through the ISL. She just loves racing. Swim after swim seems to get better. Closest to us is Abby Wood. Katie Matz 1 lane up from her. Sarah Vasey, the Commonwealth champion on the 50 breaststroke in 4. Megan Morrison of Loughborough University at the top in 3. The first heat on the final day at this British swimming selection trials for the Tokyo Olympics. And 4 cracking 100 breaststrokers in this first heat. And going off quickly down this first 50. I suppose we'd expect the Commonwealth champion on the 50 metres breaststroke, Sarah Vesey from Loughborough National Centre.
Yeah, Sarah's known for having a lot of front-end speed, and she really makes the most of her strengths. She's starting very strong here, and she'll be looking to turn very quick to 50. She's really made that marginal gain on that first 50 away from the field.
That's a serious marginal gain is a huge one. That wasn't look at that. She's what, 1.5 seconds up on Abby Wood, closer to us. So Vasey first to turn, Wood second. I'm sure Wood will charge. Has Vasey gone off too quickly? The consideration time they have to do in the finals, 1:06.79. This is looking really good.
Yeah, this is Sarah's only entry this meet, so she's had to wait till the last day. So you can tell she's been raring to go and wanting to post that fast time this morning, heading into that final and having that centre lane.
Well, she certainly will do with this. Let's see the time. Her entry time was 1:07.0, 1:06.7, 1:06.7, just outside that. Oh, just outside the consideration time, 1:07.03. Well, that's faster than her entry time. I think that's a lifetime best for her. And, well, she certainly went for it. She's tired. I'm pleased about that, though, because if that is her first race, she's waited 5 days to have a race. And she's really ripped one there. That was a great swim. Vasey winning at 67.03, Abby Wood 68.7, Matt's third. Well, I would imagine all three of those will go through to the final.
Yeah, you've got to think that. I think the top three should be into the final, but I guess you never know. We have got 2 strong heats coming up. And as we said, it's Sarah's first swim here, and a lot of the swimmers are having to come to the pool to train and then head back to the hotel room and can only stay in their hotel room during the day. They can't go out for a walk, they can't go to the shops, out for a coffee. They have to stay in their rooms, and it's very strict protocol. So as you can see, it's been tough, but to come out on that last day and to come away with that swim, that's a great swim from Sarah this morning.
What a start. Well, she should have a little cheeky smile on her face, I think, after that one. Just outside the consideration time this morning. This meet actually quite conducive to quick swimming, isn't it? With just heats and finals, no semi-finals. Good break between the two.
Yeah, I think it's been a great opportunity for some swimmers to have a bit of a hit out in the morning to see where they are. And Sarah's a teammate of Adam Peaty. She would have seen her teammates swimming very well this competition. So I think, yeah, having that strong heat swim, it gives you a bit of confidence heading into the final, but also gives you a great lane so you can be aware of what's happening around you.
Well, a really quick first heat. The second heat up now. And Kayla van der Merwe of Winchester next to her teammate Imogen Clark. Well, this is the 100 metres breaststroke, and their coach, Zoe Baker, pretty special breaststroker herself, wasn't she?
Yeah, she is a former world record holder. She set the world record in the 50 metres breaststroke at the Commonwealth Games in Manchester in 2002. So she's got a lot of experience under her belt as a coach, but it's great to see her coach in Winchester, those 2 centre lanes, Kayla and Imogen, in this 50 metres breaststroke. And Zoe has got a lot of experience, but also as a coach, she seems to really love it. She loves seeing the technical side, and breaststroke is, I would believe, one of the most technical strokes that you can get to. So it'd be great to see what these 2 girls can do this morning.
Well, it certainly will. And apparently Winchester's just about to open up a new 50-metre pool.
That's really exciting. I've seen some of the work and some pictures of it happening, and I think, you know, all the encouragement to all the pools we can get, any more 50-metre pools would be so helpful. And for these swimming clubs, I think that's where the future generations are going to come from, is from some of these great facilities. But then saying that, you see some like Hannah Miley coming up in this heat. She trained in a pool so small for years and years. So I think it's great to see 50-metre pools opening. I think that's what we want to see here in Britain.
Well, it certainly is. And I actually bumped into Zoe Baker, the Winchester coach, yesterday in the lunch queue. There was only 2 of us in it. We had a quick chat. It was a lovely chat, actually. Goodness me, she's in great shape. She stopped swimming quite a while ago, but she's in super shape. She goes, "Oh, don't tell anybody what I had for lunch." And I'm looking at it going, that's the healthiest meal I think I've ever seen. She certainly lives it, doesn't she?
She's very invested in the gym side of it as well. She very much believes in the strength side of it. She's very inventive as a coach, and I think that definitely shows with her athletes, and obviously passing on all her experience and knowledge. But the coaches and the swimmers seem to really buy into that. So it'd be interesting to see what we've got here this morning. They would have seen a very strong first heat, and they'll want to get their hands on the wall as quick as they can.
Well, hopefully that first heat will have injected a little bit of adrenaline. There is no spectator, there are no spectators here at all, none, under the COVID protocols. And so the atmosphere has been really flat by design. It's the safest way to make sure that we can hold this British Swimming Olympic Trials. The second heat of the women's 100 metres breaststroke, Kayla van der Merwe of Winchester in 4. Her teammate Imogen Clark in lane number 5. Hannah Miley in 6, just recovering from shoulder injury. I hope she looks after that shoulder. She's got a little bit of time still to qualify for the Olympic team.
We saw a very strong start there from lane 3, Katie Robertson. She really made the most of the drive off that blocks. But Kayla's really coming through the field to have that strong first 50, using the speed and the momentum. I think with the 100 breaststroke, you need to start nice and strong to set you up for the best chance on that second 50.
Well, van der Merwe over first, Imogen Clark second, Robertson third, up in lane number 3. So can Kayla van der Merwe, the 18-year-old, bring it back and get close to that qualification standard? The British 18-year-old's British record is 106.35, just a little bit faster than her lifetime best, but she's a great breaststroke, and this is a good second heat. Van der Merwe leading, her teammate Imogen Clark also going with her. What is this going to be, about 108, something like that? 108, so 108.8, 109.8, so they'll both be through to the final. A little bit slower than the first heat. And there's some quick swimmers in the third heat, so it's going to be interesting to see who makes this final.
It's going to be a very interesting one. And again, the 100 breaststroke is also about trying to qualify for the relays, that medley relay for women. And there's also opportunities with the mixed medley relay, but I think the breaststroke spot is, we can say that's taken, I think, with Adam Peaty being so far ahead of the field. I think we can say that breaststroke spot is gone, but the girls will be wanting to qualify that 4x1 medley relay, because that's always a great one to do.
So Winchester 1-2, van der Merwe and Clark. I think they'll go through to the final fairly comfortably. Katie Robertson will have to wait for this final heat. Goodburn, Miley, Hermione Rowe of Mount Kelly. Super programme they've got going. They've brought some really young swimmers here at Mount Kelly for the experience. It is a wonderful experience. You got great experience doing your first Olympic trials, didn't you?
Yeah, great experience from going, even when I was 13 years old. It was my first Olympic trials.
13?
13. I
Wow.
mean, I had no chance of making the Olympics. I was just going for the experience, you know.
Who was the player when you went at 13? I mean, I was starstruck when I was 13. Who was it that you looked up to when you were 13 and went, wow, I just swam the same warm-up lane as?
I remember even like Mel Marshall, who's now Adam Peaty's coach.
Cool.
I remember watching Mel, Alison Shepherd. I remember there was a 200 IM that was so close, and I remember just being so inspired and so excited, the goosebumps feeling. And yeah, it took me a few Olympic trials later to actually qualify to the Olympics.
Well, can you imagine swimming in the same lane as Molly Renshaw, world ranked number 2 on the 200 breaststroke? Be fascinating to see what she can do here on this 100. Jocelyn Ulliott, well, lanes 4 and 5 came into this meet tied for the British record on the 200 breaststroke. Molly went to wonderful time, 2 minutes 20.8. Only 2 swimmers in the world this year have gone 2 minutes 20. Schoenemaker, the South African, one of them, 2:20.1, and then Molly 2:20.8. That's going to be really interesting.
Interestingly enough, Molly actually turned in her 200 metres, so turned halfway at 100 in 107.95. So with the consideration standard is 106.79, so I think that's well within her reach tonight. But it would be great to see Molly have a real hit out on this 100 breaststroke. She's traditionally known more for swimming the 200, but it'd be really interesting to see what speed she has for the 2-length splash and dash.
2-length, I thought that's spoken just like an 800 freestyle. 2-length splash and dash. Jazz, the 1 length is the splash and dash.
It's still seen as a sprint event to me. When you're used to doing 800s, 1500s, 100 feels like a sprint.
Whoa. When you're used to, were you looking at me when you said that? Can I just tell you? I never, ever. I did 1 1500 once, and my mum's probably watching, but she said it was a trial for the national team when I was a kid. And she said, do the 1500. And I was like, oh, no, I don't. She goes, no, do it. And I think the one and only time, I think I must have been 12, the one only time she said, I'll buy you if you do. And we were not a family like that. We don't do that. She bought me a family bar of chocolate.
A
family bar of chocolate that I was allowed to eat on my own if I did the 1500. And let me tell you, it wasn't worth it. I was so tired after that. I had to go to bed for about a week. I was exhausted. The splash and dash 2 lengths. God, that was a long way for me. Heat 3, the final heat of the women's 100 breaststroke. And 2 super 200 breaststrokers in this. Working down to the 100, Renshaw in 4, Ulliott in 5. Lily Booker of Millfield's had a great meet here, second on the 400 IM. She's in 6. British junior champion in 7. Charlotte Rigg, Mount Kelly in 8, Imogen Lambert. Hanlon of Edinburgh in 3, Morgan 2, Adams 1. So the final heat of the women's 100 breaststroke, and it looks like if you go 69 low, you've got a great chance of making the final this evening. But this a much quicker heat, I think.
Yeah, this should be one of the quicker heats, but then saying that, the first heat with Sarah was 107.0, which is a very quick start to the morning. I think Molly, we've traditionally seen her in the 200 breaststroke being very strong. Obviously, we saw it earlier in the meet, but I think with talking to her coach, the first 50 is always the most important, just for her to try and get out nice and quick on that first length.
Well, she's doing that. So it looks like first to turn, maybe yes, up in 3 is Cara Hanlon, 3 100s ahead of Molly Renshaw. Elliott about a second behind in that pink suit of the Loughborough National Centre. But Renshaw starting to take over, maybe as you'd expect for a 200 breaststroker?
Yeah, definitely. I think the back end for Molly is going to be one of her strengths that she's going to need to use tonight, but I think she'll have to get out nice and quick, as we saw Sarah really making the most of that first 50. But Molly finishing nice and strong, but Cara Hannon is staying with her to try and book that lane this evening.
So Renshaw's entry time is 106.7, 106.79 is the qualification standard. She's just outside of that, 107.2, so half a second outside the qualification standard that they have to do in the evening. So that's a pretty good heat swim and places her, well, only a half a second slower than the time, Jazz, that you said she split going out on the 100 through to the 200.
It's always an interesting one with breaststroke. I think when you talk to 200 breaststrokers, you try and make that first 100 nice and smooth, but it's always tough when you go to the 100. It's a completely different stroke and a completely different tempo. Sometimes swimmers can overrush and overswim it. We talk about that quite a lot.
But a good swim from Molly, winning heat 3.
That was a great swim from Molly in 107.26. Obviously just behind Sarah with 107 earlier, but it's going to be a great final tonight, and 109 coming in third there, so I think it's going to be a close.
Well, Elliott was third, 109.04, and she's in the final in sixth fastest. No doubt about the fastest few in the centre, though. Look at that, what a final. Sarah Vasey, Molly Renshaw, Cara Hanlon, Abby Wood in fourth, Van der Merwe in fifth, Elliott in sixth, Imogen goes all the way through. What a final that's going to be. God, calling that one. Who's going to win?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I think Sarah looked great this morning, but I think Molly will use Sarah's speed tonight. So I don't want to call it. I don't like calling who's going to.
It's going to be a tight one, certainly.
I don't want to be a bad omen.
I'm going to ask you another one when it comes to the men's 200 metres freestyle. Who's going to make the final? That's going to be such a tough call, that one. That's in, I think, 2 races' time. We've got the men's 200 metres backstroke coming up now. Then the women's 50 freestyle. Fastest women in Britain in water will be in that. And then we've got the race of the championships for me. Individually, I suppose, it's always difficult to look past Adam Peaty. I mean, what a super start he gave us to the meet.
Yeah, I think when you turn up on day one, 2 world-class times, and then you finish and you're done, that must be a really nice feeling, whereas we're seeing the opposite here. We're on day 5, the final day of competition, and we're seeing some swimmers that it's their main event or their first time swimming. So it's it's a funny one, but we've had a great meet so far. I've been so impressed with all the swims, even though we have been in a bubble and some things have been a bit more challenging than others. It's been great to see some real fast swimming and the swimmers just getting stuck in and providing us with some world-class racing.
Well, they certainly have. And I have to say there's been a lot of juniors coming through at this meet. So a lot of youngsters, people like Jacob Whittle, the 16-year-old on that 100 metres freestyle, making the freestyle relay. But there's been some absolute crackers through the process.
Yeah, for me, some of the younger ones have been some of the most exciting races to watch. We've seen Matt Richards in the 100 metres freestyle under that consideration time. We'll see him up again in the 200 metres freestyle. Brodie Williams, Kieran Bird, Jacob Peters. We've seen some cracking swims from the junior swimmers that have really stepped up to make that senior transition, make those times. And they're some of my favourite races, you know, when the ones where they really step up and provide us with some world-class swimming.
Well, Tim Jones is head of elite development for British Swimming, supported by Kev Renshaw, and what a job he's doing, just making sure that those super juniors really make that step up. There's quite a few countries in the world that have fantastic juniors and they just don't manage to make through to the seniors, and you've just got to look after them so well. I so hope we look after that young lad, Jacob Whittle, faster than Michael Phelps at his age. Goodness gracious me, 16 years of age and he went 48.7 for 100 free. Well, we'll see him on the Olympic team, I'm pretty sure of that. The selection is tomorrow. But this, the first heat of the men's 200 metres backstroke. There are 2 heats, and Brodie Williams already has his name in for consideration. He goes in lane number 4, Elliot Clogg in 5, McFadson's had a good meet in 3.
Brodie did tell me in the post-race interview, he said, well, it was actually a bit more post-race because he had his head in the sick bucket when I tried to interview him first. But he said his main event is coming up in the 200 backstroke, so this is his main focus of the meet. So I guess that 400 IM, getting under that consideration time was a bonus for him. So we can really go out, enjoy this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Brodie can provide us with here.
Can you imagine beating the selection time, the consideration time for the Olympic Games in your fun event? Your first event, the fun event.
I still don't know whether I can say 400 IM is a fun event.
Well, it's certainly one. Yeah, I'm right with you there. Brodie Williams goes in lane 4, second on the 400 medley underneath the consideration time. So he should be going, I think. This is main event, the men's 200 metres backstroke. Jonathan Adam of the Bath National Centre in 2, McFadson of Loughborough University in 3, Brodie Williams of the Bath National Centre in 4, Elliot Clogg, Loughborough National Centre in 5, William Riley, University of Bath in 6, and Mark Ford of the City of Glasgow in 7.
Brodie looking great. He's had a really good start. We've also seen a great start from Jonathan Adam in lane 2. He's really starting nice and strong to 50, and they're going to be making the most of these underwaters, trying to really use the kick, the fly kick, nice and strong off the walls. One thing that was actually great to talk to is Brodie Williams, Kieran Bird and Jacob Peters all live in a house together in Bath. And I was chatting to them last night because it was Jacob's swim, and he actually managed to get into the consideration time last night. And how good must it feel that all your housemates, teammates, have actually got under that consideration time heading into the Olympics? So that must be a really great house to go back to.
Can you imagine? And they're all like young pretenders, aren't they? That just Kieran Bird's 400 freestyle. What was that? 350 he was coming into the meet, went 346.00, wins it inside the consideration time. Goodness me. And Brodie Williams, what a house. What a house.
Yeah, we've seen Brodie represent Millfield. That was where he came from, his club before, and then he's made the move to Bath National Centre to work with Joel Fink, and it seems to really be working from him. This senior transition, it really seems to be working. We've also got lane 2, Jonathan Adam, that's also Bath National Centre with Joel. So, you know, they've got a great group there now that seem to be really driving each other on and pushing each other on. It's really looking like a great first heat.
Well, it does look good right at the top there. Jonathan Adam maybe went out a little bit quickly, but Brodie Williams looks good and strong in the centre in that green suit of the Bath National Centre. Excuse me, is that Elliot Clogg? Yes, it is Elliot Clogg. Thanks, Jazz. Loughborough National Centre. He looks very good indeed. Got my lanes mixed up, I do apologise, but there we go. Elliot Clogg looks really good, 1:58.42. Very comfortable swim indeed for Brodie Williams in second. Third, Jonathan Adam. Well, I don't think it's going to take an awful lot to make it through. The depth here, COVID hit very much. I think it's going to be quite comfortable to make it through to the final. So it may well be that we have 4 of those guys make it through at least. And the top of the shop is in wonderful place, but you don't have to swim that quick in the heat. You certainly have to in the final.
Yeah, and I think we saw that with Brodie even in the 400 IM. He was a bit off in the morning, like a very steady morning, and then he came on that last 50 in that 400 IM. So it's great to see. I think it actually threw us off there because obviously there are only 6 people competing in that first heat, so it kind of throws you off with the lanes. Who's in what lane?
Thank you, Jazz. That's the right answer. I actually just got it wrong, but that's the right answer. Thank you. Elliot Clogg. Elliot Clogg's tactics interesting because you don't have to, quite clearly, you don't have to go 1:58 to make this final, but he decided he really wanted to. Brodie Williams on fire, we know, being considered for the team already after that 400 medley. He decided to go 2 minutes point, which is, 4 seconds slower than his lifetime best. 2 very different tactics.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. You know, it is day 5. Will they be saving themselves for the final? I can imagine so, but that's great to see that first heat. We've got Elliot Clogg in 1:58.42. Brodie in 2 minutes point 7, and it'll be interesting to see what actually it takes to make the final of the 200 backstroke, but Jonathan Adam in 2:02. You never know, that could get you an outside lane this evening. We've got a strong second heat coming up.
We do, and the 4th swimmer there, James McFadson, 2:02 as well. And I think that might be good enough. I mean, it's a little bit dangerous to come 4th if you're going to take it easier. certainly with a full heat of 8 coming up now. And, well, at least 5 of those swimmers are capable of doing under 2 minutes 2 point. I think it was 7 at the time that McFadden set in that first heat. But Luke Greenbank goes in this second heat of the men's 200 metres backstroke. The World Championship bronze medalist on this, the 200 back, and in doing so 2 years ago, booked his place on the Olympic team. That must be nice. 4 swimmers pre-qualified. Of course, Adam Peaty and winning the World Championships on the 100. James Wilby went with him and got to silver. And then Luke Greenbank on this 200 and Duncan Scott on the 200 metres freestyle. But this is going to be a fun one. Greenbank, Brown, McNally, Brooker swimming well. Hutchison up there as well.
Luke really seems to be coming into form at the right time. You know, we've seen him really come onto those world rankings in the past few years and really make his name in the senior ranks. And so, yeah, I think he'll be looking to post, obviously, a really nice fast time this morning. Speaking to James Wilby, he said it was great to be pre-selected, which took off a bit of pressure, but, you know, you want to come out and you want to swim well. So I think Luke will be the same. And obviously in lane 5, we have Craig McNally, who is the Scottish record holder. So we could be in for a good heat this morning, but I think they'll be looking to save a bit of energy for this evening's session.
You know, I've been commentating quite a long time, and one of my most memorable commentaries was actually on Craig McNally at the World Championships, where he took on the great Ryan Lochte on 200 backstroke in the semi-final. I think he beat him, and the place went nuts. It was wonderful. And I went nuts as well. I was like, oh dear. He looked sensational. Well done, Mr. McNally. I'm not sure I've ever actually said well done personally, but that was a super swim. We should also say that in lane 4, Luke Greenbank has been pre-selected, and I'm very pleased about that because he actually turned his ankle about 2 weeks ago and had a decent sprain on it. It was all the colours of the rainbow. Pretty nasty. It's quite amazing he's even swimming here. Came second, I think, on the 100 backstroke. Was it second or third? I think it was second. But and outside the qualification standard, but didn't need to because he is pre-selected. Be interesting to see how he does here and how that ankle's going. He doesn't need to push it too hard. Rehab, most certainly the most important thing for him.
Yeah, I think the support team around them, the physios, the coaches, they'll all be working together to make sure that he's in perfect shape for this year. And yeah, I think it's always a bit difficult when you're carrying a few niggles, but he'll be looking to post some strong times this evening. And I guess the pressure is off having that pre-selection, which helps swimmers, you know, when they are carrying a few injuries, niggles, it's definitely makes that difference.
But you can't miss him. He's got a very bright pink suit in the centre. Quite sure the fascination with black swimming suits. I'm very pleased that Luke in the centre's got a pink one because everybody's going to be measured against him. Craig McNally, 1 lane closer to us from the pink suit of Luke Greenbank in 4, and Charlie Brown 1 lane up for it. So, heat 2 of 2, the fastest seeded heat of the men's 200 metres backstroke. Greenbank in 4. Had a great start, that bright pink suit, and look at this. Well, tactics. Come on then, I've given you a little bit of a lead here. Jazz, what do you think his tactics going to be down this first 50?
I think he's looking to go out strong. It's not that it's obvious watching, no. You know, I think I used to love in the heats, you know, going out nice and strong to the first half, just testing the water and then seeing how you go. But he's looking very strong. So he's really looking to make his mark in the heat swim this morning. Nice smooth stroke, but a really good tempo of his stroke rate, how quick his arms are moving around. He's really got a nice stroke rate this morning. Looking like he's working that first 100 to me.
Well, he looks very well, very good indeed. Coached by Mel Marshall. What a squad she's got. Some unbelievable swimmers. And they just keep on adding one here and there. Youngsters in, working out how to train with the best in the world. And she's got a super squad. And also what is fantastic about that squad, I think, is that we have a female coach who's right at the top of the game, coaching a male athlete, which is actually, I think, in sport generally, that's quite unusual. But she's now considered to be one of the greatest coaches of any sport in Britain.
Yeah, it's great to see Mel. Obviously, she's come from the swimming background. She's done it all herself. She's gone through the highs and the lows. And it's great to see that she's actually got a great group of swimmers here that are all performing really well. And just watching Luke off those walls, he's making the most of every single metre off those walls, driving off the wall. And he's finishing strong. He looks very good, 126.52 to 150. So we might be expecting a 156 this morning, around that kind of mark. But it's going to be great to see. It looks like he's having a really strong heat swim.
Well, we should just keep a check on the British record here because it's 1:55.34. It's his own British record. He's going to be just outside that, I think, but that's a really impressive swim. What was that? 1:56.95 he wins it. Well, it says... Well, it doesn't say the time for Luke Greenbank, so I think the timing pad's probably just failed on us, but I can tell you that it is 1:56.95. Second was Charlie Brown, under 2 minutes. A good swim from him, and also Craig McNally third. But that time, a little surprising for me, 1:56.9. Bit of a dodgy ankle. Got to look after it. He'll be fine fairly shortly, I'm sure. He's got some super physios looking at it. But Luke Greenbank winning the second heat, a real world-class time, 1:56.9 to win it. Charlie Brown second, Craig McNally third, Brooker fourth. That's a quick heat. Well, certainly the first four will be through. I think that might be it. I think McFadson's time coming fourth in the first heat of 2:02.7 will be possibly the slowest in the final. We'll have to look in a second. See confirmation of the qualifiers. Yes, indeed. McFadden is last into the final, 2:02.64. But Greenbank, that was pretty impressive. Surprised me a little bit, Jazz, you?
Yeah, he does like to have strong heat swims. In the past, when we've seen him at competitions, he does like to have a bit of a hit out in the morning. But, you know, that could be up for grabs tonight. His British record of 1:55.34. He's only a second and a half off that. So it'll be interesting to see whether he's left some energy in the bank for tonight to really go for it and see what he can produce this evening.
Well, he's world ranked number 4 at the moment with the time he set at the Manchester time trial meets of 1:55. So straight into the sprinters, the women's sprinters. The fastest women in Great Britain, the 50 metres freestyle, the splash and dash.
You can call this a splash and dash now, yeah. But
Thank you.
It's still a sprint event.
It certainly
I
is.
do love the 50 freestyle, you know. It's not an event I was ever blessed with, but it's always a great one to watch. And as I was chatting to Ben Proud yesterday, it was great to see him perform so well. You know, it's been a difficult year for him, a lot of disruption with his training. He normally trains out in Turkey with Energy Standard, but I think he's been training at Bath University. So, but he's made it work, and he looked in great shape. In a 50, there isn't much room for mistakes, and he didn't make any mistakes last night. It looked great.
Second fastest time in the world this year, 21.4. Only one person faster. Big Vlad Morozov of Russia, 1/100th quicker than him. That was a really impressive time.
That was an impressive time, and it's just great to see some of those athletes that have been waiting around all week and to perform on that day. And it can be quite a lot of pressure, you know, when you've just got one swim and you know you've got to do the job. But it was great to see him out there and racing well. We've seen Ben race a lot internationally, becoming world champion in the 50 metres butterfly. But I know this year, obviously, with having just the 50 metre freestyle at the Olympics, that's going to be one of his goals, to get on that podium this year.
Well, I'm sure it will be. He just needs to make sure that he makes no mistakes at the Olympics when he gets selected. I'm sure he will, because he's miles under the consideration time. 0.3 of a second underneath the consideration time on a 50 freestyle. Amazing. Fran Halsall owns the British record on this women's 50 free, and she set it back in 2014 at the Commonwealth Games. 23.96. It's just 0.3 of a second off the world record. She was good.
Fran was an incredible athlete, and I think that time now is still world class. That time will still be challenging for medals, if not around the top of the podium this year. So Fran was an incredible athlete, and yeah, full of speed.
Well, 23.96, I can tell you the British record would actually world rank number 1 at the moment. 24.07, the fastest in the world, set by Sarah Sjöström of Sweden, who actually broke her arm. I think she broke her elbow. She's had to do an awful lot of kicking to get back, an awful time to do it, but at least she's had some time to get back. This first heat of the women's 50 free, Erin Little, the 16-year-old from Mount Kelly, in lane 3. Isabella Hindley of Brompton in 4, and then Harriet Rogers of Darlington in 5.
Seeing that ISL hat, obviously a lot of experience with racing at the International Swimming League, so it'd be great to watch this first heat of 2 or 3. First heat of 3.
50 metres freestyle in the centre, Isabella Hindley, recently graduated from Yale University. She's going to be doing medicine, I think, after this championship, go back to med school, but a really good 100 metres freestyle she swam, and this looks very powerful indeed. Head down, and, well, the qualification standard 24.6, that's very quick. I expect this one to be 25s maybe, 25 mid, 25.26. That's a really good time, just outside her lifetime best. That's a very good heat swim. Rogers second, and young 16-year-old Harriet Rogers, a really good swim from her, and 16-year-old Erin Little of Mount Kelly, also very good indeed. So confirmation of the result of that first heat, 25.2 wins it, Isabella Hindley. She'll be in the final certainly with that. And the other two giving themselves a great chance, 25.9, 26.0, Rogers and Little.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I think the room is so small, the margins, you know, in the 50 freestyle, it can be within 100ths of a second. Even on the women's 100 metres freestyle last night, there was only 9 100ths of a second between Freya Anderson and Anna Hopkins. So that was a very tight race. And even in the 50, it could be even closer. So it'd be great to see whether they can make a lane for the final. But Isabella Hindley has definitely made herself within great contention of the final tonight.
Well, she looked really good as well. Wound it up. It's a funny race. Ben Proud doesn't breathe once down his 50. Not once. Quite extraordinary. Second heat of 3 of this women's 50 free, and Emily Barclay, the fastest seed, in 4. Davis in 5. Anselm in 3. Leah Whittaker of Mount Kelly in 2. Millfield's Kiara Morris up there in 1. Interestingly, Emily Barclay was second at the British Championships 2 years ago, second to Anna Hopkin, who's in the next heat, the final heat. And actually, Anna was training out in Arkansas with Neil Harper, well, British Olympic team captain. He's running the women's program over there in Arkansas. And Anna was there up until last year, and then she came back to train with Mel Marshall at Loughborough National Centre. What a bunch of coaches she's had. That's fantastic, isn't it? And then when Anna came back, her teammate Emily Barclay is now over with training with Neil. Did a great job with Anna, and now Mel Marshall taken over. So Jazz, 50 metres freestyle. Emily Barclay, 25.09 is her entry time. 24.6 is the qualification standard. Love to see her do that.
Yeah, you know, I think the Olympic consideration time of 24.6 is quick, and Anna Hopkins' entry time is under that, so she had a great final of the 100, but it would be great to see another. We've seen in some of those events, the second swimmer has come in under that consideration time, and it's almost like they're pushing each other to that time. So it'd be interesting to see if we can get anyone else close to that Olympic consideration time.
Well, the Olympic consideration time is 24.60, and a swimmer who does that actually ranks really well in the world this year.
So that's, yeah, ranking around 9th, 10th, well, 10th position, that Olympic consideration time. So that would be 10th fastest time in the world this year. So that is quite speedy, you know, especially with the 50 being stacked of female athletes. So, yeah, it'd be a great race to watch this evening to see whether they can dip under that time.
Well, again, quite a few youngsters at this meet. Fantastic experience it is. Such a good idea to try and get as many as you can. And the development program here, run by Tim Jones, he's done a wonderful job. And a lot of the coaches really making sure that their swimmers can experience this if possible. And some real youngsters. Whittaker is 16, up in lane 2. Van Selm 17 from Millfield in 3. Evelyn Davis had a great 100 metres freestyle. Was 4th on the 100 free. She's just 16 years of age in lane number 5. Emily Hames of Mount Kelly, some real youngsters.
It's great to see the youngsters coming through and gaining this experience. Obviously, it's incredible to be at trials. It's a bit different this year, but you know, it's great to see swimmers standing on those blocks and seeing what times they can produce.
So Barclay in 4. Be really interesting to see how she attacks this 50 metres freestyle. Van Selm of Millfield in 3, and Davis of Bromley. Such a great 100 free. 54.69 she did on the 100 free, age 16. A really good swim. Heat 2 of 3 of the women's 50 freestyle, and Evelyn Davis, the 16-year-old, in 5, but Emily Barclay in 4. And those two at the moment going really well up, also with Leah Whittaker of Mount Kelly up in 2. But it looks like 4 and 5, Barclay and Davis, And Barkley looks strong. Davis also in the white hat in lane number 5, starting to swim away just inside that last 15 metres. The time is quick, 25.48, 25.77 for Barkley. So Davis wins it. Barkley second, Van Selm third, and Leah Whittaker coming in fourth place. Pretty quick heat, pretty solid heat, with one still to go though. Dangerous not to get down in the low 25s. It's going to be tight to make that final. Sorry, low 26s. Low 26s will certainly get in, and then the rest of them are going to have to wait. Davis winning it, Barkley second. They'll certainly be through. Van Selm should make it. It's going to be tight.
Evelyn Davis' entry time was 25.56, so I'm presuming that's her best time or around it. So 25.48 is looking like a best time. So that's great to see, and I think I am loving seeing some of the juniors really strive through this week, really push through, and producing some really great swims for us to watch.
Well, she's now only 0.2 of a second off the 16-year-old's national record on the 50 freestyle, Evelyn Davis. And, well, I'm pretty sure she'll have a crack at that tonight because she went 54.69 on the 100 free. Top 4 women add their times up, and Great Britain has set consideration times for the relays, and that women's 4x100 free relay were 2.5 seconds outside of the qualification standard when you add them up after the heats, and then just 0.2 of a second outside after the final. I wonder whether they will encourage a couple of those swimmers to go maybe to European Championships, see if we can get a couple a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I think the Europeans is another selection meet, so it'll be interesting to see. I believe that's out in Budapest. But yeah, it would be great to see some of the swimmers stand up again, race against the best in Europe, and to see where they are really, having those world-class racing to push them on to some really incredible times.
Well, Anna Hopkin was second on the 100 free here in this last heat of the 50 metres freestyle, and in coming second and achieving that consideration standard, her name will be in the hat for consideration tomorrow at the selection meeting. 24 swimmers, I think, so far have either been pre-selected, 4 of them pre-selected, and then another 20 have achieved the consideration time here in coming first or second. Unlucky Georgia Davis was actually third, and she did a consideration time on the 100 backstroke. That's tough, but it's not over yet.
No, I'm not actually too sure what with the announcement next week, who's actually going to be named on the list, or whether you can book your place. So, you know, the selectors will announce that in due course. But yeah, it's always tough. I've been there, you know, with the London 2012 Olympic trials and achieved the consideration time. I was actually fourth. So 4 of us made it, with Becky Adlington, Jo Jackson and Ellen Faulkner. So it was a very stacked final, and you will get that in some events, where the really strong events, and I think we're going to see that in the men's 200 metres freestyle, where a lot of them will be under that consideration time.
Well, I wouldn't be too surprised if almost all of them in the final go pretty close to the consideration time, and that men's 200 freestyle in Great Britain is absolutely stacked. That is the next event, the one that I've been really looking forward to all meet, men's 200 free. But we've still got the final heat, the fastest heat, and we've got Anna Hopkin in the centre in this women's 50 freestyle. Doesn't need to knock the socks off this one in the heats, but certainly would love to see her do the consideration time in the final. You think she'll have a go at it in the heats this morning?
I mean, I think a 50 is very difficult to actually pace, you know. It's not like a distance event where you can make sure you keep it smooth, steady and pace it. Then there's just one length. Obviously no room for mistakes, so I think she'll have a strong heat swim this morning. She liked strong heats in the 100 yesterday, so it'll be great to see what she can produce today.
Well, the final's at 7 this evening, so by the time she swims it, she'll probably have, what, a good 9 hours or so of rest. Should be enough for a one length. Heat 3 of 50 free, Hopkin right in the centre in lane 4. Lucy Hope, 1 lane closer to us from that centre lane in lane 5, was third in the 100 metres freestyle. Really good swim from her, 54.19. Emma Russell in 3. But look at this, Hopkin, straight arm stroke, so powerful. Well, she's a really relatively slight swimmer, but so powerful. Head down, straight arms, holds a huge amount of water. Slightly slower turnover than I think I've seen in the past, but that's a great swim. 24.81, just 21/100ths outside of the consideration time. And that looked pretty good to me.
It looked great, you know. She's got the traditional straight arm stroke that we see similar with Ben Proud. but she looks so strong in the water. And as you said, she's quite a smaller swimmer. But even in those sprint events, like the turnover, the power that she's getting through the stroke is just incredible.
Wow, she looked really good. Really hit the start as well. Hopkin wins the final heat of the women's 53. Looked super. Mel Marshall done a wonderful job with her over the last year or so. 24.81. I'm sure we'll be close to, if not underneath, that consideration time tonight. Lucy Hope, good from her. She'll be in. And then Emma Russell, 24.7. It's going to be tight for the final. Is there a swim off? It's going to be really close, you know. And oh, no, thank goodness for that. No, we're fine. So Anna Hopkin is in fastest seed into the women's 50 metres freestyle. Hindley second, Lucy Hope third. And look how close that is. Really close. Russell's in, Barclay's in, Rogers is in. Erin Little, the 16-year-old's made it from Mount Kelly. Super swim from her. Well, Emma Collins is going to be delighted back in Tavistock. Well done. Wow, didn't expect that. That's great. Do you mind if we go straight onto the 200 freestyle, Jazz? Because this is going to be an absolute cracker. I'm a little bit worried and already feeling sorry for a couple of these lads because I think there's probably about 15 of them think that they can make the final and expect to make the final, and there's only 8 lanes.
You know, I do get a bit nervous for the 200 freestyle because, you know, they're all gunning for the place in the final. And once you've got that lane in the final, it's anyone's game. So we've got 3 really strong heats. We've got Tom Steen coming up in the first heat with Joe Litchfield, and chatting to his coach, David Hemmings, Joe Litchfield's coach, he was saying that the 200 free is what they've actually been focusing on, and he's had a great meet. He got under the consideration time in the 200 IM. We saw him win the 100 metres backstroke, so it'd be great to see the hit out this morning. But that first heat is going to be a nervy first heat because they know they're going to have to really push it just to get a lane in that final tonight.
Well, Dean's got his name already in the consideration pot for the Olympic team. So has Litchfield. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they approach this heat. The men's 4x2 free relay is what all the noise is about. The men's 4x200 metres freestyle relay was world champion in 2015, world champion in 2017, and then had a little bit of a wobble in 19. The rest of the world really caught up and went past us. We just missed out on the medals, but I think it was probably a really useful wake-up call just to make sure that we're focusing on it really well. And I know that the coaches have really encouraged the swimmers to get involved. And such a great thing to be part of a relay, because if a relay gets a medal, all 4 of you take the medal home and go and show your mates. And actually, I've seen a wonderful photograph of the Australian women's team from the Olympics, and they had 8 women in the photograph, 4 with gold medals around the neck.
Yeah, when you've got a lot of depth in the event, you can have 4 swimmers in the morning, you can have a completely different 4 swimmers in the evening. So for the final, I'm saying in the evening, but this Olympics, it's actually the other way around. So I'm confusing myself. So it's actually the heats are going to be in the evening and the finals will be in the morning. So it'll be a complete switch, and not necessarily what we're used to in swimming, but yeah, you can have a completely different 4 swimmers in the heat and the final, and you all come away with a medal. So whether you book them a lane for the final or whether you actually race in the final, you still come away with that medal, which is great to see.
So many of these guys. Well, look at that. Look at the faces. I'll tell you what, there's some nerves here. There are no spectators. The normal electric atmosphere outside of the water is certainly not here, but there's going to be plenty of adrenaline. And I was talking to a couple of coaches, and they said, if making this team is not enough to get your adrenaline pumping through your body, you probably shouldn't be here. And I totally agree with that. It's going to be different, but look at this heat 1. Wow. Brigazzi of Loughborough in 1, and Tom Flower in 2. He's good. Milner's got medals at all the major championships. He's in 3, most of them on this 4x2 free relay. Dean in 4, already in the consideration pot for the team. So is Litchfield. Sharanek in 6. I think he thinks he can make the final and give himself a shot. Goby 7, Watkin 8. Gracious me. This is just heat 1 of 3. And there's some big boys to come. Get out there. If you're in heat, what would you prefer to be in the heat 1 or heat 3?
I definitely prefer heat 3, being able to watch those first couple of heats. But, you know, in heat 1, you've got to do the job. You've got to come away with a fast time this morning.
Well, they'll be looking at 146s if they can. What if 147 lows to give themselves a decent shot? It's not guaranteed, even if they do that. There's some quick swimmers coming. First of 3 heats of the men's 200 freestyle. Tom Dean right in the centre of the Bath National Centre, coached by Dave McNulty, is the fastest seed in lane 4. In 5 is Joe Litchfield. And it looks like lane 4, Tom Dean in that white hat, going out pretty quickly down this first 100 metres, and the rest of the swimmers will already be looking at him going, I have to go with him.
You have to, you know. I think chatting to Tom yesterday, he wanted to have a strong swim this morning, being in that first heat, but it's great because he's got Joe Litchfield next to him, who also had a very quick 100. They both did best times in that 100 metres freestyle, so they've got that front end speed. They're really testing themselves this morning. They're going to look to produce a world-class swim this morning that's going to get them in that final tonight, and in those centre lanes they'll all be eyeballing each other later.
They certainly will. Well, Dean's out quick, 51.26. He's got great stamina as well, so it's a good swim. What a turn that was from Litchfield. Underwaters are wonderful. Dave Hemmings, his coach, has been working on that with him, and they talk about super strengths at Loughborough, and certainly Loughborough National Centre, his super strength. Watch his final turn, the black hat of Litchfield. Dean leading still, but Litchfield's caught him up a little bit down this third 50. Sharanik's also going with him, 50 to go. Let's watch the underwaters of the black hat, Litchfield.
That is a great swim so far. Look at that underwater from Joe Litchfield. That is incredible. He's coming up to 14 metres there, which is incredible for that final 50 when your lungs are burning and you're on fire. He's coming up. But Tom Dean is really looking strong. He's looking like he's fairly eased off slightly, but they're far ahead of the field here, so they'll be looking to book those centre lanes this evening.
Well, dangerous to ease up because there's an awful lot of quick guys still to come. 147s maybe? 146.6, 147.1. Well, that is inside the consideration time by 0.3 of a second. Oh, welcome to the pool. And I can tell you there's some serious adrenaline pumping around the swimmers in heats 2 and 3 waiting to swim. Goodness me, 146.6. Wow, what a heat swim. That's a super start. Dean, 146.6. Litchfield second, 147.1. Well, I was thinking low 147s to make sure that's good. Sharanik and Milne, well, I don't think 149.5 will be quick enough. We'll have to see. It might have a chance, but I'm not sure.
You wouldn't want to be in the cool room now watching that 146 and how he looked like he actually eased off slightly towards the end. So that was a very strong swim from Tom, but, you know, being in that first heat, there's no guarantee. So he wanted to make sure he booked that lane nice and firmly. And I think on a 146.6, under that consideration time, that's going to get him one of the central lanes this evening.
So if you're in the cool room now, there's 16 guys in there waiting to swim in heats 2 and 3. 147.1 was the second fastest in that, and then 149.5 was third. What are you thinking you might need to do in order to make it? Are your tactics going to change after seeing that?
I think in the heats coming up, you'd have to touch in the top 2 and a bit risky top 3. I think when there's a 147.1 for a second in the first heat, you know you've got to come away with a strong swim. And a lot of these guys are going all in this morning. You know, they're going to have to go all in just to try and make that final. But it's going to be really exciting next 2 heats coming up. We've got James Guy, who's standing up next to Matt Richards, who we saw fly in that 100 metres freestyle. So this really strong second heat, and obviously it's going to be a great couple of heats to watch, but it's going to be very close. I'm going to have my hands behind my eyes.
Well, it's going to be a good one because James Guy in lane 4 has been world champion on this, the 200 metres freestyle, and he's only the second fastest seed because Duncan Scott goes in the next heat and lane 4 is the fastest. Litchfield's next to him, won the 400 medley. He's in the selection consideration for the Olympics. 5, Matt Richards, what a great 100 metres freestyle he did. He's certainly in the pot. Jacob Goodman. Jacob Whittle, the 16-year-old. Well, 4th in the 100 free and 48.7, the 16-year-old. And that relay, the top 4 swimmers, cumulative time, well under the consideration time that British Swimming have set for that 4x100 free relay for men. So a great chance of having that team selected. What a heat. Constantine, the 6'7" giant from the Loughborough National Centre in 2. Litchfield in 3. Max, his brother Joe. Well, he's already booked his spot for consideration at the Olympic team as well on that 200 medley. James Guy in 4. Richards in 5. Goodburn in 6. Whittle in 7. What are you expecting here from James Guy after that unbelievable final of the 200 metres butterfly?
Yeah, obviously we saw him in the 100 metres butterfly yesterday as well. Another great swim, world-class swim. So he's had quite a busy programme this week, but I think the 200 free is obviously one. He's a world champion in this event. He's got a lot of experience. So it'd be great to see him, see what he can do, and seeing his teammate, him and Tom Dean, race against each other day in, day out at the Bath National Centre. So it's going to be great to see what he can produce this morning.
Well, we have seen some interesting things come out of lockdown, and one of the bizarre ones for me is that actually the swimmers are more healthy than they've ever been in their life. The number of days lost to sickness from training is it's been absolutely minimal. And James Guy in the centre, world champion on this 200 metres freestyle back in 2015, has not lost any days through sickness. He's been available for every single training session. Was rewarded by his coach with a day off. One. He's a generous chap, McNulty, isn't he?
That's what you want standing on those blocks, the confidence that you've done absolutely everything you can to be here and you're in the best possible shape. So that's got to give you some confidence heading into this swim.
Well, I'm sure it will do. And I've got to say, looking at James Guy, he looks in wonderful shape. Guy in 4. Max Litchfield in 3, winner of the 400 medley. Guy's won the 100 and 200 fly already. Richard's second on the 100 free. What a heat. Ooh, a little bit of a nervy start. The starters got to wait until they're all still, and there was a little bit of a wait between the take your marks and the gun going, but already tactically, James Guy, well, he was so quick down the first 100 metres in the final of the 200 fly, split 53.0 going through, just outside of world record pace, underneath it at 50, and he's going for it again pretty well here, a little bit more measured maybe.
Yeah, he's obviously a lot more experienced in the 200 freestyle. As we say, he's a world champion in this event. So he'll be looking, as he's seen the first heat, his teammate Tom Dean coming away with 146. So he'll be wanting to have a strong heat swim this morning. We've got Max Litchfield just up from him in the blue hat. Again, a very strong 200 freestyler. And then on the other side of James, we have Matt Richards. Again, finishing nice and strong in that 100. So I know he's going to have that back end. So this is going to be a great one to watch.
Well, first to turn is James Guy. What, about half a second, 0.3 ahead of Max Litchfield. Matt Richards in a good place. Now he needs to just surf off James Guy, see if he can get a little bit of a toe, sit on the wave that James Guy will produce. He's right over on the lane line as Matt Richards. This is intelligent swimming from the Welshman. And at the moment, James Guy looks very good leading them out, but starting to go is Litchfield up in 3. And still going with them is Richards in 5. They need good turns here and then bring it home. And these 3, a decent chance of making this final. Bring it home, though.
What a great turn from Matt Richards there. He's really coming back on this final 50. He's breathing to his right, so we can't see the other guys to his left, but he's finishing nice and strong. And that's what we saw in the 100. He really finished nice and strong, bringing that strong leg kick in, and he's finishing great. It's going to be another very good, very fast morning swim this morning in the 200 free.
Well, the first half of that last length from Richards was really good. 146.73, 146.77. Both of them underneath the consideration time.
And I think that was the best time for Matt Richards. You know, we've seen him do an incredible swim in the 100, come away with the best time, and 146.73. Incredible.
Well, Richards is 18, and the 18-year-old's national record was 146.84. And Matthew Richards winning the second heat, 146.73. So that's a new national record. It was held by James Guy. James Guy second. 146.77 and 147.9 from Max Litchfield. Well, it might be good enough, 147.9, but with one quick heat still to go, it's going to be tight. Jacob Whittle, the sprinter, the 100 metres specialist, maybe the 200 a little bit far for him, but the 16-year-old had a wonderful 100 free, I've got to say.
What a last 50 from Matt Richards. That was incredible. He's just showing, like, he's so young as well, you know, and in such an experienced field, standing up against some of the best guys in the world, and he's showing what form he's in. What an incredible last turn and finishing 146. That's incredible.
It is. So Max Litchfield is now in 5th place with 147.93. 6th is 149.1. So I would imagine the target for this final heat of all the guys in it, and there's some really big chaps. 1:47.9 will give you half a chance. If you can get under 1:47.1, you'll be pretty sure of making it in. It's going to be some big guys going to miss it. Oh dear, can't wait. Come on guys, come out now. Come out now, I'm ready. This final heat of the men's 200 metres freestyle, Cam Curl in 3, Duncan Scott in 4, Callum Jarvis in 5, Ed Mildred in 6, Kieran Bird. What is Kieran Bird going to do after that 400 freestyle where he just shocked us?
Oh, it was one of my favourite races to watch. I think he was just amazed that he'd come away with that consideration time, 4-second PB. I mean, you can't ask for much more. So, final heat, yeah, you couldn't call it, could you? But it's going to be fast to make that final. So you'll want to make sure, a lot of these guys are going to have to go all in this morning just to make sure they're in that final tonight.
Well, I have to say, if I was not in lane 4, Duncan Scott here, I'd be very pleased I do have Duncan in there because he is such a brilliant 200 freestyler. Bronze medalist at the World Championships on that 200 metres freestyle in a very controversial race because Sun Yang, the Chinese champion, won it. There's a little bit of controversy about drugs. He was banned, then he wasn't, then he was. Now there's appeals going through the courts. And on the medal podium, Duncan Scott famously refused to shake his hand and had the full backing of the rest of the swimming world, most of the rest of the swimming world, I have to say, but it was a very brave thing to do. And then stepped up, of course, and anchored the men's 4x100 metres freestyle relay, caught up the Olympic 100 metres freestyle champion, overtook him, and Great Britain won gold. What a race that was. This, the final heat of the men's 100 free. Duncan Scott, World Championship bronze medalist in 4, but he's surrounded by very quick men. I think the target they'll be going for, if they can, is a 146. Certainly under 147 would be very, 147.1 would be very useful indeed.
You know, it does take them some time to take off the clothing because they are staying nice and warm. That's the key before you swim, is keeping your temperature nice and warm, as we're seeing Callum Jarvis take off his heated jacket there. Insulated jacket to keep him nice and warm, the silver lining inside.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I've used them quite a few times, and it's great to keep your temperature nice and warm. Even though poolside can be quite warm, it's key to keep yourself nice and warm after that warm-up. So it does take them a while to take all the layers off.
It is quite interesting. So it's a tactic there. Callum Jarvis, by far the slowest to take his kit off. It is an interesting tactic. I used to do that, actually, because then when my kit's off, I'm ready to go. And everybody else has to wait. It's an interesting one. Sometimes the starter gives you a little bit of a hurry up. Duncan Scott in 4, actually he's pre-selected for the Olympic team after his medal at the World Championships on this 200 free. Fastest heat, men's 200 free. Scott in 4, Curl in 3, Jarvis 5, Mildred 6. So what are we going to see here? The final heat of the men's 200 freestyle. The white hat right in the centre is the star of the field, the British and Scottish record holder on this 200 metres freestyle, 1:44.91, that British record of Duncan Scott's.
Duncan looking nice and strong, and obviously we've seen him in the 100. He was disappointed to equal his British record with the 47.7. So it'd be interesting to see what he's got this morning. He's seen a couple of fast heats, but you know he's got a lot of front end speed, so we'll be trying to make the most of that nice strong speed coming out in that first 100.
Wow, he looks so comfortable, doesn't he? Look at that. He swims like he's about 7'10". Love watching Duncan Scott swim. Look at that motor. Wonderful outboard motor at the back. Those legs driving forward. Such a smooth, long, languid stroke. He's not a bulky chap. He's not a massive bloke at all. But goodness me, he's so hydrodynamic. First over is Scott. Second is Curl. Third is Jarvis. Bird in 4th. And Bird's got some work to do if he's going to go a time which will make it through to the final. Bird in lane number 7, starting to make a move, no, but certainly Duncan Scott looks really good. Yeah,
Duncan's looking great. He's got that really strong 6-beat leg kick. But Callum Jarvis and Cam Curl sitting nice and tightly to him, so it'll be nice to finish nice and strong. They're slightly slower than the first couple of heats to 150, but you know, this back end 50, they're really bringing them legs in. Cam Curl and Callum Jarvis really bringing those legs in to drive them up for home on that final 50.
Well, they need to, because there's some big guys going to miss out in this final. And they're certainly driving now down this last 25 metres. Callum Jarvis, closest to us, has got some work to do to make sure he gets through. He's having a really good last 25. Duncan Scott's going to win it. Looks really smooth and long and very good indeed. 146.4, that's great. 146.89 for Jarvis, he'll be in. And 147.19 for Cam Curl. And I think that's going to be pretty much the cut-off. 147.1, I think that may well be it. There may be one after that, but a very good tactical swim, a comfortable swim. How can you say a comfortable swim? 146.41. Duncan Scott winning the final heat of the men's 200 free. Callum Jarvis second. Cam Curl third. They'll be into the final. Not sure that Kieran Bird will, but he's already in consideration for the Olympic team with that brilliant win on his 400 freestyle. Wow. So the qualifiers, and there we go, 147.9 has made it Max Litchfield. Ooh, nobody on the 148s, look at that. Scott's in fastest, look at this final. Top four is going to be amazing. Scott, Dean, Richards, James Guy back there. Well, he can go much quicker. Callum Jarvis, Joe Litchfield, they're all in there, look at that. Brilliant.
There's actually 5 men under the 200-metre consideration time in the heats. So obviously only 2 can qualify for that individually, but the relay, that is looking great for that 4x200 metre freestyle relay.
Well, it certainly is, and they'll probably be taking reserves as well for that relay. The interesting thing about taking reserves to the Olympics is every swimmer taken who's named on the team has to swim in the Olympics. Now they can swim 100 breaststroke if they need to, they've got to go and swim something if they're taken as a reserve, just to stop the people taking a whole load of spare people who never actually get to swim. Well, quite clearly, they won't be swimming 100 breaststroke for Great Britain. That's for certain. World Championship 1 and 2, there's no spare spots on that one, but they have to swim. So if we take 4 spare swimmers and they're named on the team as team swimmers, they have to swim something. And you can't just stick them in the heat of the relay and hope it'll be fine. And we've had situations before where we've not made the final.
Yeah, so I think the depth that we've got in the 200 metres freestyle now is just great, you know. It's everyone fighting for those places, fighting to get on that relay, fighting for those individual spots, and it's going to be very close. It's going to be a very close race to watch tonight. Obviously, with Duncan's best time of 1:44.91, that's a very quick time, but, you know, it'll be a great one to watch, and, God, it's going to be close.
Well, it certainly is going to be close. It's going to be a cracking final. I can't wait for it. Final starts at 7 this evening. Men's 1,500 metres freestyle. Just looking at the British record there, Jazz Carling, set in 2004. David Davis. Were you born in 2004?
I was 13.
There you go. You were at your first Olympic trials.
I was at my first Olympic trials.
So you would have seen David Davis swim at those Olympic trials then, would you?
Yeah, I would have seen Dave, and obviously he came away with the bronze medal.
Dave. Oh, hello. First name terms. Yeah, is there like a distance Welsh distance freestyle sort of, you know,
it's difficult, you
union?
know, even saying with James Guy, I always call him Jimmy, and it's very difficult.
Course.
I've got to sometimes think, no, I need to call them by their full names.
I'm joking, of course you would. Of course you would. Fellow Olympic medalists, why not? Josh Weston of Wickham District in 3, Jackson O'Rourke in 4 for Northampton, and then Thomas Defanes of Mount Kelly in 5. In this, the only heat swum this morning of the 1,500 metres freestyle for the men or the women. There were 11 entries for the men's 1,500 metres freestyle, so the top 8 will go in the fastest heat, which will be swum this evening. And this, the first heat, Defanes closer to us in lane 5 of Mount Kelly, the 17-year-old. Josh Weston, also 17, up in 3. And the old man of the race, Jackson O'Rourke, at just 19 years of age. Wow. Northampton's Jackson O'Rourke in lane 4. The first heat of men's 1,500 freestyle. With the second heat this evening. No heats of the women's this morning because I think there were 7 entries for the women's 1,500 freestyle. So they will swim just that one heat in the final session tonight. And I have to say there were many, many more entries across the whole meet. And then unfortunately when COVID came, the only and the best way to hold the meet was to pare down the entries. So the qualification standard was set. Many swimmers made it, including lots of juniors. And then unfortunately they had to pare that down to make sure that they could have a bubble of a size that was manageable. So they set it at roughly 10% over the qualification standard. And roughly is a pretty accurate analysis. And so therefore a lot of swimmers unfortunately were not able to be finally invited to the meet. But hopefully they will be able to come back next year. But they've been able to watch some wonderful swimming. So there's the 1,500 metres freestyle, and Jazz, we're going to have some fascinating things to talk about here, because I've got a couple of questions for you lined up, particularly on the science of swimming, which has moved on so much. I had a wonderful chat with the two scientists, sports scientists from Loughborough University, who are sitting just along from us here. I had a wonderful chat with them last night as the lights went black. Really interesting indeed. And you did a lot of work with the sports science guys, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's a key part of your training. You know, when we talk about the support team, we're not just talking about your coach, the swimmer, we're talking about the physios, we're talking about the nutritionists, we're talking about the strength and conditioning coach, we're talking about the sports scientists. And so there's a huge team around you that really does support you, and they're just there to help you, to help improve by those small gains, you know. And so it's a huge part of training. Every race is analysed. They'll come out, all the swimmers will come out of here and be able to break down their race into single blocks, their stroke rates, their stroke count, their turn times. And so they can actually come away and think, oh, my turns are a bit slow today, or I need to work more off my start. So it's great to watch, and you can compare against the best in the world as well to see where you're at with that too.
And you mentioned the words blocks and broken down into blocks, and they seem to break the length up into, what is it, 4 blocks?
Yes, you've got your turn times, 5 metres in, 10 metres out. You've got your swim speed. So every part is broken down into the kind of turn and then the swim speed and the turn. So obviously my turns weren't my strength. So that was always something that was highlighted in my analysis.
But the useful thing about that, I suppose, is that the analysis will pick up what you're relatively good and relatively not so good at, and then allow that feedback to go to your coach, so your coach can work with you and show you the statistics, the specific examples, so that you can then say, okay, well, maybe this is what the best in the world do, this is what I'm doing, and actually start working on... How did your coach approach the... Because there's so much data. I mean, you can get eaten alive with the data, can't you? So, but turning that data into practicalities, and then, so, okay, that's fine. So I've got 5,000 numbers. What do I do with it? Is I guess, the big challenge? Yeah,
I guess when it's broken down into your turn speed, your swim speed, you can then come back with your coach and say, well, what went well? What didn't go so well? What can we work on in training? And that's what you're working in, day out. And especially with this 1,500 metres freestyle, it's all about the pace. It's all about your stroke rate, your stroke count, and being able to really lock into that pace and that speed, which is what you lock into most days in training. So I think having that data is great to see. You know, you can compare to previous performances, you can compare against the best in the world, and so it's great to be able to see where you're at, but also to have things to work on in training too.
Well, let me come back to that in a second, because that's the 350 metre turn in the first heat and the only heat of the 1,500 metres freestyle that's being swum this morning. And Josh Weston, the green hat of Wickham and District, was just ahead. Jackson O'Rourke maybe just going ahead now, coming into the 400 metres turn. 1,100 to go at this turn on the first heat of the men's 1,500 metres freestyle. O'Rourke will be first, second Josh Weston, Thomas Defanes of Mount Kelly, actually swims with the Jersey Tigers, and pools have been open in Jersey, so he's been able to train over there reasonably comfortably through lockdown, which has been great news. But just coming back, so give us an example then. So you've got an area where you've got the scientists have a look and go, Jazz, we found an area that you can really focus on, look at these statistics, and so working with your coach, this is what we think you can do better in order to improve. Were there any specific things that you can share with us that was really helpful out of that feedback?
Yeah, I think obviously everyone knows my turns was always something that I had to work on, and that was just something that we were maintaining. It was whether you were maintaining the speed into the wall. So sometimes if I slowed down into the wall, obviously the turn speed is slower, and you can figure it out that way. But I remember one year, I think it was 2014, and my swim speed was actually the same as Katie Ledecky. It was just the turns where she made the biggest gains. So
Wow.
you can break it down like that. And obviously she did then go on to go 8 minutes and 4 seconds, which is an incredible time, whichever swim speed would have been quicker. But when you look at it like that and you can break it down, the swim speed, the turns, and how much of that can make a difference. And if you can lose just half a second on every single turn on a 1500 like we're watching here, it can make a big difference. But even watching lane 3, Josh Weston off the wall, it's incredible to see his turns. He really seems to be driving off every single wall. For a 1500 metres, that must hurt your lungs a little bit.
Yes, and again, I was talking to the scientists about that because I suppose there's areas where you can make improvements, but if it makes you more tired, then I suppose the physiological side of doing it may counterbalance the benefits that you'd get from making, look at that turn, yeah, not bad at all. But it is quite interesting, so that I suppose that's where the data comes in, and then the physiologists and the sports scientists will work with your coach to work out what is the best way to deal with that data to make you a better swimmer.
Yeah, so it's all about making those gains, to make sure that you can be at your best. And so any data, any feedback, anything that you can improve on is a great thing, because it means that you're being able to improve. There's things you can work on. And even when I spoke to Adam Peaty after his race in the 100 breaststroke where he went 57.3, one of the quickest times ever, I said, we look at him swim sometimes, we think, how can he go quicker? But that's from all the data that he's getting. Oh, I can work on my turn, I can work on that start speed. So all those little things, even in 100 metres, there is still so many things that you can break down and work on, which can obviously in turn help you go even faster.
Yes, and I have to say, even though he's by far the fastest swimmer in the world ever, of course he is, but he wasn't one of the best starters, and he's been working on that directly from that data with his coach Mel Marshall, and they've made massive improvements. Something like, I think it's 0.2 of a second. I don't think it's a secret to say 0.2 of a second to 15 meters. So one of the blocks that you were talking about for him, I think, is the time from the start to 15 meters. And I think it was, I mean, you can time it yourself, but I think it was 6.6 seconds, and now I think he can go 6.4. Yeah. 0.2 on 100. I mean, it doesn't sound a lot, does it? But 0.2 is massive at the Olympics.
Yeah, it's huge, and it is all about those marginal gains where you can make the most work. And even we talk about it's working with your coach, but also the strength and conditioning coach, whether he can get more power and drive through those blocks. And that could be in the strength and conditioning area and working hard in the gym. That could also be in the physio area, being able to make sure you can get in certain positions off the blocks, off the turns. So it's, again, working with all the team. And I think sometimes, obviously, we just see the swimmers in the pool, but we are so lucky to have an incredible team around us, and even from a young age, the parents driving you to the pool, all that big commitment. And even watching this 1500 freestyle, my mum and dad have watched a lot of 1500s from me, 800s, that's the longest events, and they've stuck around watching me, and plenty of competitions from a young age. So it all happens, because of that support team from a young age, having the family support driving you everywhere to all those competitions. But then from a senior level, having that support team of physios, nutritionists and strength and conditioning coach, which are all there to help you become the best swimmer you can be. So we're very lucky to have that team around us, I think, and we sometimes forget about all the people that can make a difference.
And interestingly, it used to be that if you were lucky, you had access to some of those on the British team. Now, our British universities are in wonderful shape in terms of that. I was talking to Steve Tigg up in Stirling, and he was talking about the setup that he's got there. And I know it's just as good at Loughborough. I'm sure Loughborough will say better, and I'm sure Stirling say not a chance. But they've got such wonderful setups there. Tigg's lot up there in Stirling, with the strength and conditioning coaching and the sports science backup and the nutrition backup, and they've got the same at Loughborough. Really impressive stuff. Bath. They've got it everywhere. Speaking of the universities as well, I was fascinated to hear that Loughborough University is actually recruiting American top swimmers, because once you finish in the American program through university, you're no longer allowed to race for your university. As soon as you've done 4 years of racing over there, you're no longer allowed to represent your university. So if you wanted to go to do a master's degree, you can't race for the university, which is a little bit of a bizarre idea. So Loughborough is saying, well, come and race with us. Come and do your master's here. If you're a really good international swimmer, come with us. Maybe you'll get a scholarship. Maybe we can give you a scholarship. You can do a master's at a really good university. We'll allow you to swim the ISL, the International Swimming League, so you'll get released from that. So you can sort of do it maybe on a part-time basis, but you've got to swim for us at the university championships. And you go, wow. So they've got someone like Louise Hansen, brilliant swimmer from Sweden who swam at USC. They've got Vazeos, the Greek guy who's the European record holder on the 200 medley. Felix Obok,
Yeah, I was actually hearing that from the coaches around poolside, that they've really created a great hub and centre, I guess, of athletes coming, international athletes that have been able to compete for Loughborough. So, yeah, I've heard even the distance swimmers. We've got William Bell coming up in the final of the 1500 metres freestyle later, and he's a part of that kind of group at Loughborough, which is going very well. And it's great to see, you know. I think in swimming sometimes we can be a bit protective of where our swimmers go to train, whereas really we're all there to try and improve, to try and be the best version of ourselves, and whether that's a university programme or I think it's figuring out what works best for you. But it's great to see swimmers coming together to push each other on to even better things.
Well, it certainly is, and the training group they've got now there, I mean, in terms of role models, what a great group. Louise Hansen, Vazayos, of course, Obok, Marie Wattell, Amy Okada's just graduated from UCLA, the top public university in the States, now doing a master's degree in Loughborough. Really good idea. I love that. I hadn't heard about it in terms of the positive, proactive recruiting. And I know lots of people around the world listen to this. I've had a couple of messages from my old mate Eric, who's living in Texas at the moment. Neil Harper's watching over in Arkansas. Ben Titley is watching over in Canada, and now one of the Canadian national coaches. There's a lot of people around the world watching this, and quite a lot of interest in the British trials as well.
Yeah, it's been a great week of racing, and I think we've all been waiting to see some live sports and racing. And even though it is different, you know, for me, even being able to be here, it's very different. I've not experienced this before with no spectators. The atmosphere is quite quiet, you know, but I've been amazed at how the swimmers have just taken it in their stride, you know, wearing masks and all the protocols that they're having to do. They're just getting on with it, and it's been incredible to see. And I know there will be a lot of people around the world watching to obviously see what their rivals are doing, to see how they're looking heading into the Olympics.
Well, it'll be very, very interesting. I know a lot of international interest has been in watching these championships. There in lane number 5 is Thomas Defanes, a 17-year-old from Mount Kelly, but leading Jackson O'Rourke in the black hat of Northampton. And they have 7 lengths to go at this turn, 350 metres left. O'Rourke over first, Josh Weston of Wickham District in second, and then just about half a length ahead now of Thomas Defanes in lane number 5. Well, the only heat of the 1500 metres freestyle this morning, because the fastest heat of the men's and the fastest heat of the women's, the only heat of the women's will be this evening in this evening's final session, which will be at 7 o'clock. It'll be the final swimming session of these British swimming selection trials for the Olympic Games to be held in Tokyo in less than 100 days now. God, it's starting to boil, isn't it? It feels like it's been coming forever. And suddenly, it's actually really close. When did you start getting nervous when the Olympics was coming up? What sort of time did you think, you know, I'm now still 100 days out, that's not a problem?
It's weird because I think I was actually more nervous for the trials. The trials were the biggest one for me to actually qualify to get on that team. Obviously, I missed out on the London 2012 team. And
really? But you're Jazz Carling.
Yeah, but
as a serious point now, you're Jazz Carling, so you're nervous to make the team, even though you got 2 silver medals at the Olympics?
So I was 25, and I guess I'd had all the experience, Commonwealth Games, European Championships, World Championships, and being able to get on the podium. But as soon as I got to those trials, I guess, being at 25, you know it's probably one of your final chances, which it was for me, to make that team. And the times were very quick, you know. We had 2 times, but I really wanted to achieve that automatic consideration time. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, and really I felt like I was swimming with a lot of stress. And I think, I guess when you put a lot of stress and pressure on yourself, that's when it is tough. So I think I was more nervous for the trials. The Olympics I found like I could just enjoy. Everything was going well in training. I was confident. I was more relaxed. So I think that was probably the most relaxed I'd been at a competition, was at the Olympics, the biggest event that there is, really. So it was a bit of a backwards thing for me, I think.
Yes, that's a little bit upside down. That's fascinating. Really is fascinating. More nervous for the trials than you were for the Olympics. That is really interesting. And your coach at the time?
David McNulty.
What a coach he is.
Yeah, you know, seeing him here, he's now one of my good friends, and I think...
Well, he wasn't then.
No, oh God.
Hated him.
Oh God, we had our rows in our time, I tell you.
No, Jazz, come on, you're so mild-mannered.
No, I think, you know, a coaching relationship is tough, and, you know, their job is to get the best out of you. So, yeah, I think it was a bit of a transition. I was with the coach, Bud McAllister, in Swansea before, and moved to Dave in 2014, 2 years before. So, Oh, hearing that bell, that is what you want to hear. At the end of a 1500, everything's hurting. Hearing that bell is like a great thing. You know, 2 more lengths to go. The legs can start to come in. Seeing if you've got anything left for those last 2 lengths. God, that must be a great feeling being in the pool now.
Well, we'll come back to that Dave McNulty thing, because I have to say I had a chat with him the other day, and at the end of it, I felt I could move mountains. I thought it was absolutely inspirational, wonderful. Jackson O'Rourke of Northampton has led for pretty much all of this men's 1500 metres freestyle, the one and only heat this morning, the fast heat this evening. And in theory, Jackson O'Rourke could win the event, even though the final heat is in the final session tonight. It's sort of heat declared winner. So this heat this morning and the second heat tonight, and O'Rourke swam well. Josh Weston of Wickham District in lane 3 also has swum well. And then Tom Defanes of Mount Kelly, great experience from him. And the Mount Kelly team, they would have had 50 swimmers here if they hadn't pared the meet down. 50, amazing. Jackson O'Rourke wins the morning heat of the men's 1500 metres freestyle. The time 16:09.36. Josh Weston second, 16:15.44. And Tom Defane of Mount Kelly coming in third, just about 15 metres to go.
It's great to see those top 2 under their actual entry times. You know, I think the distance events have been hit a lot, you know, with a lot of disruption to training, but that's great to see.
It is, and a decent swim from Defanes as well, the youngster. So that is the end of this morning's racing. Some fantastic stuff. That women's 100 breaststroke tonight, it's going to be so tight, really interesting. There's, of course, the results of the first heat of 1500 freestyle. Jackson O'Rourke winning it, Josh Weston second, Defanes third. I don't think they'll be pushing for the medals this evening, but some good swimming in that first heat. And as you say, Jazz, it's always good to come here and swim underneath your entry time, underneath your lifetime best, and some good solid swimming there. But this evening we're going to have the women's 100 metres breaststroke, and the consideration time is quick, but after that 200 breaststroke where Renshaw and Wood were so good, really looking forward to that. Men's 200 backstroke, well, again, I wasn't expecting Luke Greenbank to be as fast as he was, but he was very quick indeed with his slightly dodgy ankle, which clearly is getting better because that was a great swim. Women's 50 metres freestyle. Jazz, what are you thinking there?
I think there's going to be a great chance of Anna getting under that time. It'd be nice to see some of the other girls to see whether they can make that drop to get under that consideration time.
So that's going to be going off at 8:05. The meet, of course, starting at 7 o'clock with the final heat of the men's and then the women's 1500 metres freestyle. And, well, we could well see another name being added to the team on that men's 1500 freestyle.
Yeah, the men's 1500 freestyle, it's going to be a great race tonight. We have got Dan Jervis from Swansea University here, and you know, it's been emotional seeing him this week because he's felt a lot of stress. He's been very nervous to race, but his main event is the 1500 freestyle. He's had 2 great swims so far this week, just missed the consideration time in the 400 and 800, but it'd be great to see him get under that tonight, you know, and I know how much it means to him, how hard he works. So yeah, I think that's going to be a great race for him tonight. We've also got Toby Robinson and Luke Turley that are going to be next to him, so I think they're really going to be pushing him on to hopefully a nice quick time tonight. Indeed.
Well, I'll talk about that 200 freestyle in just 1 second, but I love the interview that you did with him after the race of, I think it was the 400 metres freestyle where he just missed out, or was it the 800? And he said, I'm going to come back on Sunday, and I think he used the words, I'm going to smash the consideration time.
Yeah, that was after the 800 where he just missed it, but again, a very strong swim from him, just off his best time. But it's a very new event to him, the 800, so I love interviewing Dan. He talks so well. He's so positive, and yeah, I'd love to see him get under that time tonight.
He's one of the nicest guys in the world. And then the final race this evening is going to be the massive one of the whole meet, the men's 200 metres freestyle. Who's going to be in the top 4? How many is Great Britain going to take? Because that relay could well be in a chance of the gold in Tokyo in less than 100 days. That's the end of this morning, the final morning of heats of the final day of British Swimming Selection Trials here in the London Olympic Aquatic Centre. We're back again at 7 o'clock this evening for the final set of finals. How many names can be added to those 24 that I've got on my list already for consideration at tomorrow's first selection meeting? See you at 7 o'clock.